As promised, this is kind of the follow-up video where I'm going to focus on walking you through the assignment, giving you the guidelines, kind of discussing the guidelines, and giving you kind of just general tips and advice about getting started on the assignment. So my last video was more concerned with kind of getting you thinking about kind of the backdrop for this assignment, so things like genre and identifying that. Noticing criteria, what's there that you could possibly use as kind of the basis or the foundation for, a review. So with that kind of first video, I try to kind of get you engaged more with those concepts before kind of getting into the details of the assignment itself. So for this video, I'm going to look more about the assignment, focusing on that and getting you started, because your job for this coming week, week 12, is precisely that, to get started on the review. You're going to be choosing, number one, you're going to be choosing what it is you're going to review. You're going to be setting your criteria, coming up with an outline, and by the end of the week, have at least 3 paragraphs running with it. So we're not going to do a full draft necessarily with this. So what we'll do is we'll peer review kind of a partial draft. So your introduction in 2 paragraphs. So that's your goal, I think, for, here it is, the draft here that you'll be submitting a week from now. Next Sunday night will just be 3 paragraphs. And then you'll get feedback on those in order to finish it off and complete the full review, written review, by the following week. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk you through the assignment sheet itself. So this is available, like I said, there at the bottom of week 11. Okay, so you can choose essentially anything. I'm pretty flexible in terms of choice. I would say the majority of students end up writing about a film or a TV show. The remainder, kind of, the last quarter or something like that, end up writing about music video, album, video games. I had a number of students actually last semester that did concerts or festivals, so you have kind of a different set of criteria going there. So whatever it is, I want you to think carefully about this object, right, or this work of art. Because you're going to be, the rest of the semester is completely devoted to this, right? So you're going to be doing a written review on it, so this current assignment. The remix video that you'll be doing just after is based on the same thing, right? So you're not going to change your object of it or anything like that, right? So everything is kind of based off, in the portfolio as well, is based off the review project. So I want you to be happy with it. So do think carefully about it. I wouldn't say kind of overanalyze it. I have a tendency to I'm very hesitant about choosing something. It takes me forever to choose something. So maybe don't spend, mass amount of time on it, but do, spend the time to be comfortable and happy with your choice and confident in your choice, whatever it is. Choose something that you can write insightfully and critically about. So, and this is one of the big pieces of advice I would have, is don't choose something you're familiar with, but choose something that kind of excites you, that engages you, that intrigues you, engages you in some way, right? But not something that you absolutely adore or love, okay? And my reasoning for that is, if you're so enthralled with something, you can't really be critical about it. If you're kind of just blown away by something so much that you can't really step back and kind of look at it impartially, at least to kind of think, well, maybe it does a really good job of these things, but, this aspect of it is, less perfect or somewhat flawed, okay? So you're not looking to choose a perfect object here. So stay away from those those things, I would say. That would be one of the biggest missteps often students. They just immediately go for something that they know like the back of their hand and they love, and they really struggle with getting the word count and kind of, developing the review itself. They find kind of, well, I just love it, and it's just natural to love this thing. So avoid that, I would say. That would be a major thing. Also, choose something that you're familiar with, and that you can be insightful about. You might not be an expert on it, so kind of set that aside. That's fine. But my one thing about music, I've had some students, I'm going to write on this album, or I'm going to do this music video. But they have no clue about the technical aspects of, or how you compose music at all, or any of the, technical terms with music. And myself, I don't know them either, so I don't write about music because that's not my area. I know kind of what sounds good to me, but I can't really formulate a very good evaluation of an album because I don't have that technical know-how about music. If you have that technical know-how about music, then by all means go in that direction. I really encourage you to do that. But if you don't have that technical know-how, but you want to write about a music video or an album or a song or whatever it is, really kind of consider doing something else, I would say. Okay, so because in order to get that tone of being knowledgeable about something, you're going to have to use that vocabulary that we use to discuss music in its technical aspects. Okay, so choose something that you're familiar with, that you feel like you can speak knowledgeably about, or somewhat knowledgeably about. Okay, so again, it's the same length as the analytical. I say we're going to be spending a little bit less writing time. I know the analytical with the extended spring break seemed to take forever in many ways, so it was kind of stop and go, and kind of didn't have the momentum the way it worked out. But hopefully with this assignment, kind of you have a better sense of where you are. And generally, like I said in the video before, students really tend to, do well with this assignment, enjoy this assignment. It's a looser assignment. It has more freedom of choice. You can kind of take it many different directions depending on what your evaluation is and how you see something. The language can be, looser, more relaxed, more casual. The report and the analytical were fairly formal, typical, conventional assignments. So for this, there's definitely more, room to be yourself, write with your own personality. If that was kind of something that you felt was holding you back, or that you were holding back with the previous assignments. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's 15% of your grade, but keep in mind the remix assignment that builds on it is 15%, and the portfolio that's associated with it as well as 10%. So the timeline, I'll just kind of run through that quickly. We're going to be doing it a little bit different than the analytical essay in terms of time. So starting on it this week, so later this week on Thursday, I'd like to see just a simple outline with your criteria decided. So basically you're give me a rundown of, what you're going to include. So I have a sample flowchart here. You're more than welcome to use this. So in introduction, you kind of establish what you're reviewing. It does not need to follow this, but often this is helpful if you really struggle with structure. Background paragraph, you have to give me the context. Like if you are doing a film, let's put this in there. If you're doing a film, for example, who are the actors? What's the plot? Kind of what's the setting? What type of, identifying things like that. And then you're going to tell me what your criteria is. Okay, so you could have, similar to the analytical essay, you could have 2 criteria, you could have 3 criteria. If you go over 4, I think you're trying to overdo it. The same principle that we talked about with the writing analytically. You can't talk about everything, especially with a film, right? You're going to have to boil it down to, what are the things that you're basing your evaluation, your final judgment of this object on the most, right? So is it the cinematography? Is it the special effects? Is it the acting? Is it the dialogue, the script? So what I need to have from you guys, hopefully by Thursday, is just a basic outline telling me what your criteria are going forward. So if you turn it in Thursday night, Friday morning, I will look at those and give you kind of green light, basic commentary, feedback on them. There's not much obviously to read with an outline and criteria, but just to make sure that you're on the right track. So I'll get back to you that Friday morning. I'll get back to everybody. Draft 1, we're going to be doing a peer review at an earlier stage. We did kind of a peer review at the very last stage this time, or last time, sorry. So draft 1 is basically 3 paragraphs, an introduction and 2 paragraphs from somewhere in your review. Okay, and that's going to be due a week from now, so next Sunday. And then we're going to do the peer review by that Tuesday. So I'll put you in groups similar to what we did before. We might keep the same groups. We'll see. I haven't decided yet, but so it'll be kind of the same timeline, but you'll have less to read, right? So you're looking at 3 paragraphs. I also will be doing separate feedback from that. So you get feedback from your peers, but I'll also be doing a video feedback, looking at those papers for everybody individually, and I'll kind of attach those in Canvas for you. So you're I'll get all that feedback, as well as please go to the right site, because this is kind of one of the last major writing things. So if you are still kind of 2 visits down with the right site, do send in, send in your draft 1, or send in kind of your draft after the peer review, whatever it might be. Okay, so do take advantage of the right site in this next week or 2. Okay, and the final draft is going to be due that Sunday night. They're basically looking at writing this over 2 weeks. Okay. I'm going to run with the time left, just kind of running through the goals. Again, the main thing here is evaluation. That's kind of the thing that we didn't get with the other. We were kind of building up to, but I didn't have you do with the other assignments. So your main goal here is to evaluate something. So that's building on, all the analysis that you make. You have to give me that final judgment or final evaluation. And all of that comes from, your set of criteria, whatever it is, right? So I might talk about that just let's see. I might just do the key features and then talk about criteria here. Okay, so key features. So I just want to make it very clear that an opinion won't work for this writing. I just don't want an opinion, because opinion is not supported. Like, I hate chocolate. That's an opinion, but I'm not really supporting that, right? So for this, you can't just have an opinion. You have to give me support, a support that leads to an evaluation. You have to show me how you get from, I watched this is my evaluation. You have to show me kind of the in-between part, right? How you get from one, point A to point B in terms of your evaluation. Pay attention to the context. So these are things like, what kind of work or object is it? What genre does it belong to? Coming up with clear and fair criteria. For example, if you are doing a comedy film, jump scares aren't going to be relevant to you, right? So you have to choose criteria that are relevant to that particular object or work of art, but also to the genre, right? So make sure that those kind of match up. And also your tone. Let's see. Just other advice here. Again, I would stay away from reading other reviews once you've chosen your object. So again, I don't want you to be, you can be maybe kind of at the latter stage, you can bring in other critics and what other people say about it. But at this stage, I really want you to write out and be comfortable with your own perspective, and don't be so concerned about what other people think about it at this stage, because I want you to develop and be confident and certain about how your perspective on it and your evaluation of it on your own terms, rather than be heavily influenced by what other people think about it. Okay, so just be careful in that sense. So kind of do it on your own for this week or 2, and then kind of at the last stage, you can kind of think about bringing it in. I think that's all for now. So again, if you have further questions, feel free to contact me kind of as you're going through this process of choosing a subject or choosing an object or what you'd like to do, and thinking through the early stages of the review.